CJNU 93.7 FM Nostalgia Radio in Winnipeg is the proud broadcast partner of the Health Sciences Centre Foundation Bannatyne Legacy Circle Celebration. Presented by Johnston Group in partnership with Canad Inns, with additional support from Belfosh Signs and outstanding branding. I'm Adam Glynn, and I had the pleasure of putting together this very special broadcast during a very unusual year. If you missed any of the programme, you can listen back to it in full on the Health Sciences Centre Foundation website and at cjnu.ca. Of course, in putting together a 2-hour radio programme, not all of the material that we recorded makes it to the final broadcast. But, exclusively for you, we have access to all of the bits that were left on the cutting room floor. And so I'm delighted to introduce the full conversation I recorded with Debra Bausman in late 2020. Joining me in the studio now, Debra Faye Bausman. Debra, it is very cool to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So, for the benefit of those who have never met you before, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, I'm a Winnipeg girl, a city girl. I was born and raised in the Elmwood area of Winnipeg and went to school there, George V, Elmwood High. Went to university, have my Bachelor of Social Work. I also went and received my certificate in management. Worked in the child abuse unit at the Children's Aid Society. And I've also worked, I had to take a brief stop at that time, and I turned my career into business, and I went into retail with Eaton's.
Oh, wow.
And I was the regional manager for women's fashions. Unfortunately, when that company closed, at that time, I got married, I moved out to Cooks Creek, and I went back to social work. Working in the hospital there and working with elderly, those who had to go home after maybe an operation, and to make sure that they had the care that they needed. And that was very, very fulfilling.
Yeah.
I've since moved back to Winnipeg. I love being back home. And
it's funny, I think of Winnipeggers as being like boomerangs. It doesn't matter how far you throw a Winnipegger away, they will always come back home.
Yes.
And Winnipeggers can complain about this city as much as they want, but if anyone from anywhere else complains, God help you.
Yes, that's for sure.
It's amazing. So, what inspired you to go the direction you did in terms of your studies?
I always had a desire to help other people. So, I would always gravitate towards the words of the Dalai Lama or other people. And as a child, as an adolescent, I had a lot of empathy for other people. So I was originally going to go into the police force, and my father said no. So I went into social work and received my bachelor's degree. And even though that period of my social work career was difficult, it was saddening, I felt that I was able to help in some way. I was successful in what I presented to the courts, whether that be working with the mom to make the environment better for the children, or, unfortunately, some situations where the children had to be placed in other homes. That is, it's very disheartening when you see and have the knowledge of what goes on. And I'm glad I was able to help.
It's interesting with the benefit of hindsight. You look back and societally now, one could argue we've reached a point where people are saying, police officers are not social workers, and those who work in the police maybe either need more training in that area, or we need to review where dollars are being spent and the breakdown of these kind of services in a community are being offered.
Yes.
So I find it fascinating in hindsight to look back and say, you wanted to help the community and thought that a career in the force might be a way to do that, but it ended up putting your skills and talents and passion and empathy toward helping people in a very different frontline role.
Yes, yes. And there were many times that the police helped me.
Indeed.
Follow through in some situations. So I thank you for that. I never looked at it that way.
Doing any kind of social work is always the definition of an intense career. Because when you as an individual are somebody who has that kind of deep empathy and wants to care for others, I cannot imagine how difficult it must have been for you to leave work at work when the clock hit 5 and you went home.
In that type of profession, you don't.
Right.
You just don't, because you're not wired that way. If you were wired that way, you definitely wouldn't be in social work. I just really enjoyed giving back, and working with children was very important to me.
I find it particularly interesting that the two big themes in your career, you started by working with children. In latter years, you were working with seniors.
Yes.
And one could argue, you can learn most from what comes from the mouths of babes, but also from those who have learned so much more before us.
Absolutely.
And it's almost a sad state of affairs that those two groups are arguably some of the more at-risk or vulnerable in our communities.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Children don't have a voice of their own. And the elderly, well, our society, it's a complex situation, but it's quite sad to me when I know of a certain individual who's in their late 80s and totally alone.
Yeah.
Totally alone. No one to speak to, no conversations, no smile from a friend. And in knowing that, and I think we all, deep in our heart, we realize that that is going on. To for a minute, stop, think, and ask yourself, can I play a part in helping that individual? We may not know each other, but we can get to know each other, and that's where volunteering comes in place.
Of course.
And I think that is very important.
You are somebody who has given a huge amount of yourself to others, be it through work or be it through volunteerism. But all of us are human.
Yes.
And all of us have our limits.
Yes.
And at various points in your life, I think it's fair to say, you found where those limits were.
Yes, I did.
And it wasn't just mental health, but physical health too.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
I suffer from depression, and that has been since childhood. I was my own advocate. I had to learn on my own what normal was, and I had no idea. So when a child is abused, is not educated at home, given the quality time, there's a huge impact on a child and their future. I reached a few areas of my life in regards to that, working with abused children and their families. It's not something that you can make a career out of. Definitely, there's a lot of burnout. It's really unbelievable what you see and hear. And I did come to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And because it brought up a lot of memories for me as a child and what I went through. And even though I wanted to help these children more and go on and work more in the field, I knew that I had to take a break. I had to refocus totally on something else. And that's what I did. You know, when you're wanting to do something for somebody and it comes from a place of deep knowledge of the subject, it can be a tool for you in helping others because you know exactly what they're going through. But you also need, I believe, education for people who are depressed. And really more and more we need to drive it home to everyone who lives in this city or elsewhere in the country that depression is not a weakness. I had that told to me 3 years ago, that I was a coward and I was weak.
That's ridiculous.
It totally is. And this person was my friend. Not anymore. But there is such a stigma out there. And if we all, everyone that's listening to this, think, was there not a time in your life where you just felt like, what is going on? I am not happy. I can't even smile. I can't get up in the morning. And it's because there's a reason for it. And it's important for people not to be ashamed to admit that they have depression, that they have any type of mental illness.
Yeah.
Because if they feel that way, they will most not seek help. And I sought help, and I thank so much Dr. Serene, Dr. Mouchin, and Judith Harper from the Psych Health Unit at the Health Sciences Center Foundation. They made a huge difference in my life, and I cannot thank them enough. And because of that, I want to give back. I have fibromyalgia. That was diagnosed in 2008. Dealing with pain every day and having depression. You know, fibromyalgia actually brings on depression, but I already had it. So it is a daily struggle. For anyone that has this condition, you don't know where the pain is going to be every single day you wake up, if you were able to sleep that night. So it's really important to be aware of yourself and think about not just yourself at the moment. What if you have children right now? Grandchildren? You don't know what their life is going to be or end up, their feelings, their emotions, which is a very crucial part of a person. You don't know what's going to happen. So in my instance, I thought of fibromyalgia, chronic pain. I have a bit of money that I have. I unfortunately don't have children, but I want to make my life that I have purpose, that I have an ability to give back, even though I had so little. And I have not much today. But we can all give. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to be a millionaire. You have to be aware. Be aware of yourself. Be aware of the future and the children. And wouldn't it be great if your grandchild didn't have to go through the physical pain, and that there was better knowledge and treatments for depression? That can only happen if we, as citizens of this city, stand up, take the step, and give what you can. You can do it in installments or put it in your will. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but just think of the difference you could make in one person's life. And to me, what is our purpose on this earth? Some of us never find out. Most of us, I think. And I think it's really important to not just look inward and look at yourself and your own needs and wants. Think of others. They need your help.
Debra, this shows an incredible perspective that I think a lot of people never manage to attain in their life. The ability to abstract oneself from the situation and get that 30,000 foot view and try and look at the bigger picture. And you're right, I couldn't agree with you more. This time, challenging time more than ever, is the time that you should support the causes that mean the most to you in any way you can.
Yes.
Whether that is putting a few extra dollars in a donation to a charity that you care about in a year, whether that is spending your money at a local store rather than spending it at an online retailer.
Right.
Whatever it might be, it's about making those intelligent choices now for the good of the community in the future. And clearly, hard fought, you have earned that perspective through the experiences that you have been through in life with both physical and mental challenges.
Yes.
And heck, so many of us face one, the other, or both in some way at some point in our lives.
Yes.
And arguably the way that we respond to these things shows, our real true character. And I think it speaks incredibly highly of your character that through all of this, you've channeled it into intense positivity. And to be honest, I'm not surprised. When I look at your life experience and your work experience, you've had a career where you have spent time giving back to others. And even now, as life deals you some less favourable cards, you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to play this hand in such a way that I'm still giving back.
Yes.
So what was it that, it sounds like a silly question, but what was it that inspired you to make your legacy gift specifically to HSC? Do you think it was largely influenced by the incredible care that you had there?
You know what? Yes, absolutely. The care I'm receiving even today is incredible. The programs that are put on by the doctors and the therapists. But that can't happen without our help. All these programs that are so direly needed in our community for our youth, for those who have addictions, there are not enough programs. And that's up to us as individuals, as citizens, to do something. You may think it's too small, but no, it's not. If everyone on a street or an avenue got together and did one small thing, the combination is magnificent. It can create change in a human being that so direly needs it.
I think people sometimes forget that small things can have a big impact.
Yes.
And those small choices that you don't really think in the moment are going to do much end up doing, well, especially when you think about legacy giving, literally you are giving for the good of the community for time immemorial. Because
funds are being invested and endowed, and it means that what little that you have is being leveraged and used for the good of the future, which is an incredible thing to do. You made a really, truly incredible choice. I'm sure lots of people have ticked that box when they're doing certain government paperwork that says, yes, I'd like to be an organ donor, or yes, I'd like to do this, or yes, I'd like to do that. But you've made a choice that when you finally reach the end, you're donating your entire body.
Yes, I am.
What made you choose to do that? Because that's an incredible thing to do.
Yes. I can't think of anything else I would want to do. There are so many illnesses, and mine that I focus on because there's so little knowledge about it and barely any treatments, is fibromyalgia. And if the scientists, the doctors in this community, if they need a body that had this illness, and they can find something, the brain, what's the brain? How did the illness affect that? That is so important to taking the next step. And everyone has their own philosophy on what they're going to do with their body when they pass. I am a spiritual individual. I don't really relate to any one religion. And I feel that, yes, I can be placed in the ground. Yes, I can be cremated and kept in an urn. And that might give comfort for those that we leave behind. But I question that and ask, what more can I do to help others with the condition that I have presently? Because is what I have, will it be going through the generations to come? Think about that for a minute. I have fibromyalgia. I don't know if a grand nephew or is going to get it. So why wouldn't I do that? To give more information for the doctors, the scientists, so that they can improve our quality of life, your quality of life, and your family going forward.
Debra, I think you are the very definition of a kind soul, insofar as
Thank
you are... Well, no, but sincerely, you're the kind of person who has spent a life and a career giving back to others in every way that you can, often in the face of adversity. Mm-hmm. But you've consciously always turned those negatives into positives, and you've made that choice to give back in the way that you spent a career working with those who needed help, to give back by volunteering, to give back by choosing to donate your body to science, to give back by choosing to contribute financially to something like the Bannatyne Legacy Circle at the Health Sciences Centre Foundation. Mm-hmm. Why do you think anybody listening now should support HSC through a legacy gift?
It's important to reflect on your life, on the purpose of your life. It doesn't just end when you stop breathing and your heart stops pounding. It can continue towards helping other people who live in this community, and who knows, across the world. We have wonderful scientists in this city, and we have great treatments that are coming out of just somebody giving a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot. And I encourage everybody, if you have any questions, any doubts, anything, Irma McKenzie looks after communicating and answering your questions. She's such a lovely person, and I encourage you to call her if you need a little bit more information, and just see for yourself if this is where you want to go. Because I tell you, it gives you such satisfaction inside that your life was for naught. It's going to continue. And let that be.
Debra, you are an inspiration. I don't know what else to say other than, Debra Bausman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. This has been an honor.
You've been listening to a special recording produced by CJNU 93.7 FM for the 2020 Health Sciences Centre Foundation Bannatyne Legacy Circle celebration. To learn more about the work of the HSC Foundation and the Bannatyne Legacy Circle, visit hscfoundation.mb.ca. And to find out more about Winnipeg's non-profit community cooperative radio station, CJNU 93.7 FM, head to cjnu.ca. I'm Adam Glynn. Thanks for listening.